Okay, think about this for a second. Right now, inside every single one of your cells, there's this constant, almost frantic dance of molecules. And a new paper from Gale and colleagues asks a really fundamental question about all that movement. Could it actually be a source of power?
So let's just put that question out there, plain and simple. Can our cells generate electricity just by moving? I mean, it sounds a little like science fiction, right? The idea that all that microscopic jiggling and shaking inside us could somehow be harnessed for real usable power. It seems impossible, but that's exactly what we're going to dig into.
All right, so let's set the scene. What you're looking at is a cell membrane. You can think of it as the super thin skin that holds a cell together. But here's the thing. It's not static at all. It's constantly fluctuating, bending, vibrating. It's alive with motion. The authors of this paper basically looked at this chaotic dance and asked, wait a minute, could there be a hidden source of electrical energy in all that movement?
But there's a huge problem. Right away, they ran smack into a major roadblock. We're talking a fundamental law of physics here. You see, you just can't get free energy from random shaking. It'd be like trying to power a whole city by somehow capturing the energy of random ripples on a pond. It just doesn't work.
And here's that law, spelled out straight from the paper itself. It's a core principle of thermodynamics. Basically, that random jiggling caused by heat, what scientists call thermal noise, is a dead end. It's just a chaotic mess. You can't pull any useful directed work out of it. So that's it, right? Case closed? Well, not quite.
And this is the crucial twist in the story. It turns out not all cellular jiggling is created equal. On one hand, you've got that useless thermal noise. Think of it like a boat just bobbing around randomly on a choppy lake. You can't do anything with that. But then you have active noise. Now this isn't random at all. This is directed motion, and it's powered by the cell's own internal engines burning fuel, a molecule you might have heard of called ATP. This is like putting tiny propellers on that boat. Suddenly the motion is purposeful, and that changes everything.
Okay, so we've established that the cell has an engine, right? It's creating this purposeful motion. But that still leaves a big question. How do you get from motion to electricity? There was a missing piece of the puzzle. And it turns out to be this really special property that's basically universal in all our cell membranes.
And that missing piece is called flexoelectricity. Honestly, it's a beautifully simple idea. When you bend or curve a material that has this property, it creates an electrical voltage. You can almost think of it as a bend-to-spark effect. And what's so cool is that the paper makes it clear this isn't some rare, exotic thing. Nope, it's a fundamental property of the membranes that make up our cells. So now we've got both key ingredients on the table. We have the purposeful motion coming from the cell's own engines, and we have this amazing property that turns a simple bend into a spark of electricity. You put those two things together, and bam! You get the breakthrough at the very heart of this research.
And here's how it all comes together in this simple two-step process. Step 1. The cell's internal engines burn fuel, creating that active noise that purposefully bends and warps the cell membrane. Then step 2, the flexoelectricity of that membrane kicks in and instantly converts that physical bend into a real, usable electrical voltage. So let's be super clear here. The cell isn't getting a free lunch from random heat. It's using its own fuel to mechanically generate its own electricity. Okay, and this is where the story goes from interesting to, well, kind of wild. Because once you understand that cells can make their own electricity like this, you start to see the implications everywhere. From the most basic things cells do, all the way up to, maybe even, how we think.
So let's start with the basics. What does a cell actually do with this power? Well, one of the toughest, most energy-hungry jobs a cell has is pumping stuff across its membrane. We're talking about forcing molecules in or out, often against a really strong gradient. It's basically the cellular version of pushing a boulder uphill.
And this is just a brilliant illustration of how it works. All that constant bending and flexing creates a localized jolt of voltage. And what the paper shows is that this voltage is strong enough to literally grab a charged particle, like this ion here, and just shove it across the membrane completely against the normal flow. It creates an active pump, powered entirely by the cell's jiggle. The cell is essentially using its own movement to charge itself up like a tiny, tiny battery.
But it gets even bigger than that, way more profound. What if this whole mechanism isn't just for running tiny pumps? What if it's the actual physical basis for how our neurons, our brain cells, talk to each other? What if this is how we think?
And this graph, this is really the climax of the whole paper. What you're seeing is the voltage spike their model predicts over a few milliseconds.
Just look at that sharp, upward curve. If you've ever seen a neuroscience textbook, you know exactly what that looks like. It's a dead ringer for an action potential. That's the classic electrical signal a neuron makes when it fires.
So let's just break down why this is so stunning. First, the timing is perfect. It all happens on a millisecond timescale, which is exactly how fast the brain works. Second, the shape of that curve is a perfect match for the data we get from real living neurons. So what does this all mean? It suggests that the very spark of thought could come from this exact physical process. A cell's engine creates active noise. That noise bends the membrane, and flex electricity turns that bend into the electrical spike of a neuron fire.
But believe it or not, the implications don't even stop there with our own biological brains. That iconic electrical spike, it's not just a cool feature of biology. It's also the direct inspiration for how we build artificial brains. You know, the AI that powers so much of our world today.
And this quote from the paper just nails the connection between biology and computer science. That specific, nonlinear shape of a neuron firing, well, it's not just some weird biological quirk. It is the direct inspiration for something called nonlinear activation functions in AI. That's the key mathematical trick that lets artificial neural networks actually learn things. Turns out, in building our most advanced tech, we've just been copying nature all along.
All right, let's wrap this up and put all the pieces together. We started with a simple question about the jiggle inside our cells. We learned that cells use their own engines to create a special kind of purposeful movement called active noise. Then, this amazing property called flexoelectricity turns the bending from that noise into real electricity. We saw how this power can run tiny cellular machines like ion pumps. And then, the most remarkable part, the same process gives us a physical model for how our own neurons fire, the very mechanism that, in turn, inspired the design of modern AI.
And that really brings us to the final big idea here. For so long, I think scientists just dismissed all this cellular movement as simple, random noise. But what this research shows is that hidden inside that noise are the secrets to how cells power themselves, how neurons fire, and maybe even the physical basis of thought itself. It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible secrets of life are out there right now, just hiding in the noise?